Hola, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Héctor Manuel. Actualmente estoy estudiando la carrera de Derecho en la Escuela de Liceo Pedro Infante. Y a continuación les voy a exponer lo que sería mi tema de speaking. Así que vamos para allá. A ver, espérenme un tantito porque esto. I take call of the and national was wake and international conflict. Its made and faction was to support them and victims of aggression, following and the classic theories of collection. Security preoccupying is and unique of accusing of economic and military action against the aggressors and the duties very destined. It could hardly conflict with the victims of for defining the wells, but as Eric has, they hiding the opposite the college security systems integrate our showing win instances. Inscription recording that in some cases page had hot warning into expansion of then defending cis status. For example, certain enforcement of the Augustine alliance to detriment of ten defender praise because more important the security of the instances and self-defense develops its central and option sharing. In security home, a log intended to provide super ton victim of aggression but allocated suffers don maxins international peace and security formen the rig ton self-defense integrant in for the college security system and condit and tor artin 51 of the share its exercise will not hinder the action of the security concern and self-defense moves and on scoring taken the means unnecessary and means international peace security however at the San Francisco conference and established United Nations. And in relations become self-defense and collection security, recollect his attention online on did and discussion about the necessary quality and secondary quality and meu standpoint. And to direct on self-defense, but it and call it the precision balance with the certain supremes it often contradict and the only character it the read self-defense as explicit explicit artículo 50 article 51 was left open. Esta practice, however, has clearly some specific of this relationship, the post-war defense, is not only recognizing and the dominant role of the security calling be repeat the words of the sharing is fundamental documents, but its forwarding powers of condition were it also reserved in various conflicts. These wars most obvious is causing abandon and ceasefire order normally in the conflict of a war made in Iraq and Iraq. The war Bosnia is Herzegovina and the war French en Trai en California y al the case de estas exception al the security council will determine the party responsible for conflict only restriction the victims to self-defense in order to weak and hostiles if only both parties could be declared titan were willing to complete with their termination. The speech is adverse affects and Bosnia's self-defense. The embargo was infinitely well rehabilitated international community because it served the diffusion the conflict the oppositions gradually when Bosnia faced the obstruction with some states asserting that they wanted blockade taken outly to restrain self-defense is sounds and which as done in the danger the existence of standing. However, the agreement was rationed on this point on the embargo was maintained until they often were with the national concession showed and the states weren't willing to exceptions and certain restriction of string self-defense be the Security Council is in concern the prospects for speedy and todo the conflict. The Security Council in the practice terror often prefers in maintenance of based on the protections of the security and status and ensured he gives it far random powers to those who in their shadow self-defense and collection security are in the second. Those serve the defense purpose willing self-defense protects the security of the individual status collection security aims to preserve international page in much broader sense of revenge of armed conflict in reckoning the collective action will not occur in circumstances would assuming that once the international community forest will be better as other conflict as with action and storing controversial and laborious determinations be the aggressor and to conserve and measures on behalf of the victim. The foreign town center as consisting showing an approach to collect security time difference from the classic conception. The resultant sovereignty of self-defense to colectivo seguridad is not outing and toning and terrain and self-defense security measuring must fade under a particular firearm necessary to maintain international peace and security and the international as recommended and correctly understood as detecting good effectiveness should not be measured according to the usage of collective measures in protecting the defining statute according to their effects of the meetings of international peace and security in the broader sense of discussion awards. The consent weights of the sustained limits of the security considers a power to restriction self-defense in reinforcements be the wider margin of persuasions the collection as gradient of discretion on determining well-being. Its most serves its objectives and further further sufferings effective waiting, considered expressing the clearest its effectives or imports it obvious source of sentence be expressing extinction, the right and on self-defense. This decision can only be occur if it manifests or death. This is confirmed not only by one special of the last part article 5.1 but also by the status practice in the status uh, that have affirmed in the legit to Collins measures only when the law of effectiveness once in their opinion always. And pays often cannot be restored, which prediction don't perceive of two parties don't conflict, especially since an effective machines for reading disputes resolution and still looking for a look to put and in the hostilities in my wake unable they take measures which possibly enter fixed measures that be restrictions self-defense con in the long-term territorial launchers for the stated and questions in sense the shorten assumes declare separation of short-term enforce action and long-term disputes resolution. To security, a culture power walls and volumes varied fortunes of international order and the question called the sacrifice staten are part of this territorial for the common good of peace and these conflicts which the sharing centered in the ruling of the national law. Therefore, it has been argued that such a resolution was prohibited by to Susan with station exchange, though is not warranted. Collecting of the written to self-defense of Sparrenplum North too often the international community welcome in extraction shall restrain self-defense. And finality, the ONU shall subordinate self-defense and collective security to large extent and general international law in the constant the resolving power of the Security Council to restrict self-defense extends the event to cause wherein the integrity or extinction of the defining status are exposed to significant danger. This reflects the strange and the interest of the international community as well have gone over the internal individual status in international law open in also central to status sovereign international law all stems common interest on provide international law. Bueno, y eso sería todo.